This year we learned from Olivier Krug why we should
never ever drink champagne in a flute.
But what glassware would you use, and more importantly, what champagne to put in it? This episode of Got Somme celebrates another season of our podcast, and Master Sommelier Carlos Santos has brought in his choice of bubbles to celebrate bringing in 2024.
Shall we do a puff?
Yeah,
we should do, yeah. Of course, still got to keep some standard, opening the bottle of champagne, cutting the foil properly with the wine knife.
Go for it.
Shall I? Are you sure? Woo! Happy New Year!
Happy New Year, everybody. Welcome to the final episode of 2024 for Got Somme as we celebrate New Year's Eve in the same style as we did last year. Ridiculous eyewear and tuxedos. I'm looking like I'm the end of the night kind of guy. My bow tie is not done up.
I'm more in the middle of the night kind of guy right now.
Yeah, you're looking good. Glassware comes off so we can focus on the color of our champagne. Welcome to this episode. As you saw in the intro, we had, Olivier Krug in very recently to our podcast, and the key point of that, or the takeaway that 3.5 million people on Instagram cared about was, if it's not champagne flutes, what am I drinking my champagne out of? So Master Sommelier Carlos Santos is here. We'll get into the bottle of champagne that you've chosen, which is exciting, but you have 6 different pieces of glassware in front of you. Can you tell us what is the correct glassware to use when drinking champagne?
Ultimately, and I think I should start with that, you will enjoy your champagne in whichever glass you want to. If you want to drink it on a bucket, you drink it on a bucket. If you want to drink it on a cereal bowl, you drink it on a cereal bowl. If it's what they enjoy it in, by all means. Then I think there are maybe more appropriate glasses. I think that's the way. And I think what Olivier Krug was trying to say is that the champagne flute, which is this one, it's just too small. Imagine a champagne that has been aged for so long, it's so much aging, so many different vintages inside that one bottle, or any champagne for that matter. It's just too closed. And yes, you see all the bubbling, but it does not allow for the expansion of the champagne in the glass. But yeah, starting with the first glass, this one is called the ISO glass. So this is what we use in wine courses, for example. You know, any wine can be drank in this: whites, reds, sweets, sparklings. Anyone can. It's more appropriate for sampling, basically.
And for the people who are listening to this as a podcast, it's the shortest of all of the glasses. I'd say it'd be like 5 inches tall, maybe half the size of a normal champagne flute. And I would have associated that shape with sort of whiskey.
Port would be served very, very regularly in this type of glass as well. There's even a glass called the Cisevier glass, which is an engineer, and he actually designed the glass with a little finger holding thing. Anyway, so...
On the stem.
On the stem. The second one, well, the flute, we've touched on it already.
A lot of the other comments that were in there, and there was 1,500 plus comments, so I didn't get to read them all, but I reckon I read most. And a lot of them were like, you're wrong, Krug Champagne, 6th generation founding family member. You're wrong. It's to keep bubbles in. Is there any sort of scientific truth to that, or just from your experience? Because a lot of them are like, well, yes, it's a little bit smaller, so you can't access, the quality of the champagne or get the full aromas on the nose, but, it keeps the bubbles in there for longer.
Yeah.
Is there any sort of truth to that?
It does because the carbon dioxide that is in the sparkling wine, in the champagne, it's more tightened up in the flute than it is, for example, on the coupe. This is the coupe. If you expand the exposure to oxygen is much more on a coupe than it is on a flute. On a flute, it's tightened up. So yeah, the bubble will keep bubbling for a lot longer. If you pour champagne in the coupe, it will expand immediately the flavors, which again, you will lose flavors much faster, and also you will lose bubbles a lot faster.
Okay, that makes sense.
The exposure to oxygen will be much broader, and probably will warm up faster as well.
Now, this is an interesting one. The Coupe Glass, obviously you're going to describe its history, but I think of this as the meme, for people who are listening, not watching, I think this glass is the meme of Leonardo DiCaprio in The Great Gatsby, where he holds out the glass of champagne and winks at the character of Tobey Maguire, but that meme's been pretty, used a fair bit, and he has champagne in that
You
coupe
look
glass.
a bit like him, actually.
Oh,
so,
thank you so much. For the people who are only listening and have never seen me, yes, he's telling the truth. But can we pour some wine into the into
absolutely,
the coupe?
absolutely. I think we will do that.
I don't want to stir up too much controversy.
Yeah.
And Olivia Krug, if you are watching, or the Krug Champagne family, his daughter now follows us on Instagram as well, so eyes are on us. Can you please pour some into the flute so that we can assess the difference over letting it open up a little bit?
For sure.
Only as a scientific experiment.
For sure. This is a more, it looks like it's exactly the same champagne, but from the top here, you see this one feels like has a more deeper golden color.
Yeah.
And the keeps bubbling all over the place. While here, the bubbles are seen from all the top, but it feels like the bubbles are already like pretty much gone. While this keeps, we just poured it obviously, but keeps bubbling super, super fresh.
I have always drank champagne out of a flute. Or something very similar, like the tulip glass. And yeah, I've never seen champagne bubbles so spread.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was a thing.
Well, yeah, your glass pretty much has no bubbles anymore. Like there's a couple of bubbles. So, but still, this is the order, by the order I would serve champagne on, by order of preference in glassware. This is my least favorite. This is just for sampling. This would be my next one that I would use after. This one I would probably use even preferably over the flute. And then this is also, the Burgundy glass is also for me too big. I find it too excessively big.
Well, it's funny. I bought in that Pinot Noir glass. I guess this,
you can try a little bit on it
let's
as well.
pour some in there. That was what Olivia suggested.
Yeah.
But in saying that, this is quite a stylistic Pinot Noir glass.
And what is the difference between having it on a flute versus the coupe versus the Pinot Noir glass or the Chardonnay glass, if you like, is that here you barely can put your nose inside, but you have a really strong pungent aroma, but it's concentrated inside, and it's not, it has no escape. And the bubbles keep bubbling really, really vibrantly. The coupe is like, you can smell, but it does not smell the same. So it smells really broad. It smells toast and biscuit, which is the champagne characteristic. But in the flute, it's like right on your face.
Oh, wow. That just to give some idiot assessment on this. This feels like maybe even three completely champagnes.
100%. 3 different champagnes.
I got fruit on the flute.
Yeah.
But I'm getting bready characteristics and fruit on the coupe. And then even in the Pinot Noir glass.
Pinot Noir glass, it feels the most complex so far, and it's the same champagne, okay? But the thing is, with the flute, with the Burgundy glass, it concentrates the aroma inside the bowl, and at the top, very, very slightly allows for some aromas to come through. So I feel like the Burgundy glass is where you capture a little bit of the fruit, the pungency of the flute. And you capture the toasty, the bready, the brioche from the coupe, and all in the same glass.
So we've had the tasting glass, your least favorite, the flute, the second least favorite, the coupe, the third, the fourth with the champagne in it. We have the Pinot Noir glass or the Burgundy style glass. But you do have these final two, which you've referenced a couple of times. But is this just a plain white wine glass that's your next favorite over the Pinot Noir glass?
Well, yes, because as I said, it's this is called a universal glass, and this is actually really, really, really inexpensive glass. This is like a couple of dollars.
And the final one, obviously, like you said, it's a bit inaccessible for most people. This was a special glass that was designed in particular for a restaurant. But explain to us, out of the 6 chosen, the features of it that you believe lets you assess champagne the best.
It's very much resembling of a Pinot Noir and a Chardonnay glass, but slightly smaller. So it's because, again, in this glass, remember what I said, the bubbles will also go a little bit faster, not quite as fast as the coupe, but
Burgundy glass.
But the Burgundy is quite
large opening.
Too large. While in this one, look, it's bubbling, it's elegant, and even when you pour it, you see how the openness from the bottom, which has this little point in here, keeps the bubbling going, just like the flute, but then he opens just gently to concentrate the right amount of champagne inside the glass. And then the bowl closes all the way through to the top, just like the Burgundy Glass, but in a smaller version. So I think it's just perfect.
These are 3 different wines. These two, and I'm talking about the Burgundy glass, the large Pinot Noir glass, which was kind of Olivier said in the episode, and then your glass are wonderful and expressive. And then the Flute does smell different. Hey, does it smell great? It does, but it doesn't smell as
it doesn't smell as complex.
No,
because you have the primary aromas jumping off the glass, but there's much more than the primary aromas on the champagne. But in the Burgundy glass, or the last one, which is the designed glass for champagne, it's much broader and much more complex, and you capture secondary aromas and also even tertiary aromas from maturation.
Let's talk about the bottle of champagne that we are trying. Obviously, we had to focus on glassware, but you've brought in a champagne I've never seen before.
I mean, I brought a champagne called Paul Dethune. So this one is exclusively Grand Cru vineyards, so from Ambonnet, which is in Montagne de Reims, so the northernmost wine region from Champagne. So we have Montagne de Reims, and then we have Vallée de la Marne, we have Côte de Blanc, then we have Cézanne, Côte de Bas. So Montagne de Reims has 9 Grand Crus. Let me see if I can name them. Sillery, Pousieux, Beaumont-sur-Vel, Verzenay, Maïs Champagne, Verzy, Louvroy, Bouzy, and Ambonnet. So I know it may not sound...
Well, you look to me at the end for like confirmation.
I think those may be the 9 Grand Crus of Montagne de Reims north to south. I mean, it's been a while, but I think this is exactly how it goes. And this one is from Ambonnet, which is the southernmost Grand Cru, and is a majority of Pinot Noir planted in these vineyards. And that's exactly the blend in here as well. It's about 70% Pinot Noir, 30% Chardonnay. So you expect something a little bit more robust, something a little bit more toasty, a little bit richer, a little bit more shouldery style of champagne, which I really, really love. Paul Dethune is a very small grower, and that's actually something that the listeners can learn in this, if they don't know yet, of course, is that on the bottle you have little letters in every single bottle of champagne. They have to. And they are different styles of champagne, basically. So this one is RM. So I'm not sure if you can capture there on the corner left-hand side. So RM means Récoltin Manipula. And that is a champagne that it's made from grapes that are owned by the producer, okay? So they can only produce champagne out of their own vineyards. They cannot buy grapes or must or... anything else out of other producers. They must own everything they make. That's RM, Récoltin Manipula. I find them very, very special because it's smaller producer, smaller grower. They own their own vineyards. And why is that special? Is because, yes, there may be a little bit less consistency year after year because the production is a lot smaller. They don't have all these stocks of wine most often that the huge houses have. But there's a lot of character in every single bottle, so I think that's incredibly special. And the bigger part of what we see in either in the supermarket or bottle shops, it's NM, Négociant Manipula. That's the majority, and that is because they produce much bigger quantity of champagne. But they only own part of what they produce, of the vineyards where they produce. They are allowed to buy grapes or must or wine to make their champagnes. That's Négociant Manipula.
There's a good little deep dive into champagne as we celebrate New Year's. Hopefully, a little bit more information on glassware type from a master sommelier. Of course, I tend to also agree with Olivier Krug in the idea of the Flute champagne. And today's been the quintessential science lesson for me. I've got a Flute in my right hand. It's been open for 30 minutes now in the glass.
Keeps bubbling, but...
Still bubbling, yeah. And then we've got the special glass that you've got.
You see how this glass is holding the temperature as well? Like, it's still foggy and still, like, condensation.
Still cold, yeah.
It's still cold. It's just the right amount in the glass. I think that's super important as well.
Well, Olivier even said that he serves straight out of his cellar, which would be a colder climate.
12,
that's how he does it.
12, 14 degrees probably, yeah. I'm guessing.
Never ever drink champagne out of a flute. One of the great quotes of 2024. Thank you very much for watching or listening this season to Got Somme. We do appreciate it. Happy New Year. We'll see you in January. We're back in just a few weeks, so we're taking a couple of weeks off. But yeah, the content continues next year. We've got some more winemakers from Australia and across the world, plus an episode that is highly requested. Very soon into the new year, probably in February or March, Carlos will be matching fast food, Macca's, KFC, Taco
Fantastic.
Bell, with some wines as well.
Are we bringing the food?
We're bringing the food.
Yes, I'm not having breakfast.
We'll see you next year, everybody, but only in a couple of weeks.
Cheers. Saúde.
Saúde.